Hi, everybody. Hassan Shariq, regulated Canadian immigration consultant, back with our weekly live session on Canadian immigration. My prayers and wishes that all of you, along with your families, are doing really well wherever in the world you are. Things are improving here in Canada, although we are looking at a second wave where the numbers have started growing. But it seems that most of the world, things are getting better. I will wait for a while so that people start joining into our session. In terms of Canadian immigration, there are a few updates, some new things happening. We've seen draws where this was the second all-inclusive draw, so that happened. A lot of people who are outside of Canada and are applicants of express entry, they must be happy with this new trend. So good in terms of that. Hi, Amza. Hope you are doing well. For those who joined the session, I would request if you can also mention that which part of the world you are from, which country you are watching this session from. And then after a few updates, I will move on towards our regular question and answer session. So one of the updates which has happened, which is very, very important, is that very recently, and this concerns applicants who are Canadian citizens or permanent residents and who have applied for spousal sponsorship. Like they've got married and then they've applied for their spouse to be granted the permanent residence. There were big delays into it. Part of the reason that a lot of officers are back in Canada and they have to do their processing from within Canada. So remote working processing was not up to the mark. And where pre-COVID, like there are two different types of spousal sponsorship application. One is where the spouse is outside of Canada, and the other is where the spouse is inside of Canada. So for spousal sponsorship, where the spouse were outside of Canada, the processing time was pre-COVID. Average processing time was about 10 to 12 months. Good cases, like cases which were being processed early, had the processing time 8 to 9 months. With the COVID situation, what we saw that this processing time has gone way beyond that 10 to 12 months time period, and people have been waiting for as long as 1.5 years now. Many people who were really at the tail end of their applications, even they've been waiting since the COVID situation. So just a few days ago, the Canadian minister responsible for immigration has announced that they have come up with a policy where there will be a 60% increase in the number of officers who will be processing the spousal sponsorship applications for primarily for applicants who are applying for their spouse, the spousal sponsorship application where their spouse is outside of Canada. Excuse me. So that's a large increase, 60% more officers specifically for this stream, and this comes out of the fact where Canada has an objective under its immigration policy of family reunification. So you can't really be making people wait for that long when it's spouse. So that's good news. This came recently. So all those people who are part of who have applied for their spousal sponsorship application, good news for them. Most likely, the turnaround time will be better. In the same context, for spousal sponsorship applications, previously they came up with a policy that if you're in a country where you're not able to have all the documents secured at this stage, but you would still want to sponsor your spouse, if there is 1 or 2 documents missing, you can submit your application. Whatever document is missing over there at that stage, you can leave that, provide an explanation for that, and you will be able to your application will move forward. So that's one thing that they mentioned. So these are some of the positives which have recently happened for this in terms of the spousal sponsorship applications. Um, in terms of express entry, a lot of speculations were being made where it was thought that now it will be an alternate draw model where one draw will be targeted specific CEC draw, and then we'll probably have an all-inclusive draw. But what we saw more recently was that there were 2 all-inclusive draws in a row. So this sort of indicates that there will be more and more all-inclusive draws. But one thing that we have to now keep in mind is that for this particular year, the target that IRCC had for specific for the federal programs under express entry, that stood at about 85,000 people, roughly plus minus a few thousand. And we have already crossed the 70,000 mark for invitations. So around 70,000 invitations have already been issued for these programs, like the express entry programs. And that means that we are now reaching that threshold. We are very close to reaching that threshold. We're in the end of September. So we have 3 more months left. That is like good 25% of the year left. But if we look at the numbers, we've sort of crossed 80% mark for the annual quotas that we had. So it will be interesting to see if from now onwards, how long will IRCC continue with the policy of doing draw every second week. It may maybe not in the immediate future, but maybe in a month's time, it may reach a point where either it has to change the policy where the draws are done every 3 weeks, maybe, as this has been the case in the past, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or they might have to cut on the number of invitations that are issued in a particular draw. Because otherwise, if we continue with this trend wherein we have, so if we have, say, 3 more months, that means this is about what, about 13 more weeks. 13 more weeks. If we have like a draw every second week, that is close to about 6 more draws. With an average number of 4,000 people being invited, that is about 24,000 more draws. Now, depending, like sometimes you have the invitations, but not everybody accepts the invitation. That is a thing as well. And sometimes people are declined. So let's see if they will continue with the same number, or there will be a cut on the number of draws or on the number of invitations that are issued. But right now, it seems that we are on track with that. Other than that, I've also mentioned about the study permit applications. So a lot of students who had applied for their study permit for this particular term, many of them have received the first stage invitation, the first stage approval. With the study permit, there was this policy of 2-stage approvals. The deadline which was given was 15th of September, so we are past that. Anybody who is starting their study in Canada in fall, like those who've already started in fall, or those who are planning to start in winter, which is January, if they study outside of Canada up until 30th of April, but they've applied for their study permit, this time will be considered as study in Canada. So this will make them eligible for the postgraduate work permit. So a lot of students who had applied for the fall intake with regard to this, they have started receiving all those first stage approvals. Fair enough. I don't see a lot of questions today. That's interesting, because usually this particular session is a question and answer session. So what I will do is that I will start off with whatever we have right now. Karthik, Ravi, hi Shariq, we received ITA to complete 3 years of experience till 1 month, 20 days pending. Can I proceed with ITA or reject it? Karthik, technically, if you've not achieved 3 months, then it can be rejected. But it depends. I don't know, how did you receive an ITA? Either you had put in at times there is an issue because you have when you do the import, it is in month. So sometimes 1 month can be taken out. I don't know, 1 month 20 days, like that's 2 months. How did that difference come into being? But also consider if by the time that you submit your application, if you are able to hit the three-year experience mark by that time, then it can be considered. It's not an issue. Although technically this will depend on the officer. If you have a high score and you feel that you can get an invitation again, you might take the chance of declining this and waiting for the next one. It is at the discretion of the officer. If you proceed with ITA and they do a calculation that one at the stage that you were invited, your qualification at that particular stage, if by removing that 1 year's experience, you still stay at a CRS score which was equal to or above the minimum cutoff for that particular draw, you will be sort of in a safe position. But if the officer is a little strict on that and they do the calculation where they assess your CRS based on 2 years of experience and it falls below your below the cutoff score for that particular draw, they have the discretion of rejecting your application as well. So if you hit the 3-year mark by that time, you can take a chance and proceed with it. Bharat, hi Shariq, how are you? I'm good, Bharat. Hope you're doing well. A regular attendee of our session. Cybertruck 99, I love the name that you have, Cybertruck. Love from Toronto for the way. Next, that's a long question. Facebook user, and probably you've not provided your identity, so that's why it says Facebook user. So the question is, if someone completed his/her study from an and I'll remove it from the screen because it is covering most of the screen. If someone completed his/her study from an Atlantic province, but instead of AIPP, she want to apply NSNP or NSEE because the applicant couldn't get a designated employer, which is the main condition of AIP program, but the applicant got a job under NOC type. Unfortunately, employer is not a designated employer for AIPP and applicant doesn't need 1 year work experience. I don't know, Facebook user, you've written a complete thesis. I don't know what the question is. It's only one part and you can't really put that. If you're saying that you completed your study from an Atlantic province, but you are not applying for AIPP because your employer is not designated, but you have a job offer from somebody in Nova Scotia, then that's fine. If you did study in Nova Scotia, or for that matter, even if you didn't study in Nova Scotia, but you have a job offer from an eligible employer and it meets the condition, you can definitely apply for the Nova Scotia's streams. So yeah, absolutely no issue if that was your question. Hassam Khan, have done bachelor's in engineering, can apply for PhD. Will it lead me to PR? So Hassam, yes, but it is you have to look at quite a few things. So current policy in Canada is that if you complete any kind of study in Canada, which is where the duration is at least 8 months, you are eligible for a post graduate work permit. So once you complete your PGD, you will be eligible for a postgraduate work permit, which will be equal in length to the duration of your study. Now, the PR process is there are once you are in Canada and say you've done study over here, then there are various options. You have more options compared to somebody who's applying from outside of Canada. So then it will depend at that stage which PR options are available. So you can apply for the express entry program if you have a 1 year's postgraduate work permit and you start working in Canada and you have 12 months of Canadian experience, you can apply under express entry through the Canadian experience class. If you have work experience before your study in Canada, which is foreign work experience, you'll get points for that as well. So, even if you're applying as a federal skilled worker program applicant or a CC applicant under express entry after completing your studies from Canada, that will give you some additional points for Canadian study. So you will have additional CRS points for Canadian study. At the same time, if you've worked in Canada, say for a year or whatever the duration of your postgraduate work permit be, that will be Canadian work experience points as well. So you have a chance of scoring higher CRS points compared with somebody who's got similar qualifications, similar experience, but all of that outside of Canada. Then there are PNP programs. So many PNPs at this stage currently are not really all that attractive for applicants from who are outside of Canada. Whereas if you've done some qualification from within Canada, then there are streams within specific provinces and others where you have specific streams for international graduates. Also, the fact that if you're working in some province, those provinces have PNP streams for people with experience from that particular province. So just giving you an example, a lot of people are interested in Saskatchewan's immigrant nominee program these days, or that for that matter, Alberta as well. But for Saskatchewan, applicants who are outside of Canada, they can only score up to a maximum of 70 points. Whereas if you have a provincial connection, which is in the form that if you've had study from the province or if you've worked in the province, you get additional points, and that's where you become eligible. So those points can be secured by people who've studied in Canada and then working in Canada. So realistic right now, sort of, excuse me, saying that you do this PGD and this is the pathway, that is the wrong approach. That's not how we our CICs and immigration lawyers here in Canada, we don't suggest like that. The actual assessment will happen once you finish your degree in Canada. But keep in mind that if you complete studies in Canada, that's PGD level studies, and they say if you have good 1, 2, 3 years of work experience already working in your home country, and then you come to Canada, the opportunities are there. There are employer streams as well. So you might be able, like if you work, you might be able to work for an employer for a while. And then if there's no other option, they might offer you a job offer. And that could give you points as well. So there are opportunities you will be able to sort of land into a PR option once you move to Canada and have your study done. Moving on, Cybertruck. I have a question. Can I claim 10 years experience for SIMP if degree was awarded last year? Okay, so technically for express entry, you are authorized if you have your work experience during your studies, you can claim points for that. It is only that the province will have to see if the work that you were doing was that eligible for full-time work, because in a lot of cases, if you are doing your study and you're working, at times it is not full-time work. So if it was full-time work, and which you did as part of your studies as well, then that's fine. But another important aspect to look at it is that if you have a profession which is regulated or licensed in the province, then in a specific degree award is required to work in that profession, then the date on which you're considered qualified for that particular profession is from the time once you completed your qualification for that particular profession. So it depends on the profession. But if your profession does not require licensing and you were working while you were studying, it was a mix of it, then it can be claimed, as long as it is documented experience and all the required documentation that Saskatchewan requires, where it is taxation documents, bank documents, the experience letters coming from the employer, it can be considered. Rehan Ahmed, hi Shariq, 467 chance before December. Now it is seemingly more likely, with the back-to-back all-inclusive draws, that it will dip down to 460s. How much? Again, to be seen. Most likely, if there are more frequent all-inclusive draws, I sort of feel that it will, like 467, 468, probably, say for instance, if the next draw is again an all-inclusive draw, then most likely it will be a dip of another about 3 CRS points, maybe 2 to 3 CRS points. If it is consistently all-inclusive draws, then every draw, most likely we will see a CRS dip of 2 to 3 CRS points. So you could do some maths over there. In case of all-inclusive, it might be probably around 3 draws from now. If we have a CEC draw in between, that might change the situation. So it will depend on how the draws roll out now. Gurpreet, I started working full-time from Jan 18, 2020. During the pandemic, I was laid off for 1 month and 10 days. Can you please tell me when can I submit my file for express entry? So if you're looking at Canadian experience class, it has to be 12 months. It has to be 12 months, but with Canadian experience class, it's not a requirement that that it has to be continuous. It can be in pieces as well. So depending, whenever you complete your 12 months, you will be eligible for the Canadian experience class. You take that time out. Karthik, also my wife is the primary applicant. My daughter's birthday is clashing with my wife's experience. Though the employer is giving reference letter, will we raise a question about it? We 3 are applying. Karthik, I couldn't really understand. My daughter's birthday is clashing with my wife's experience. It doesn't, probably what you're trying to say is that the date of birth is the same where it is shown that probably your wife was on the job as well, the start date or the end date. Probably that's what you meant to say. Well, it doesn't matter. See, if you're working for a company, they offer you leaves. Those leaves are part of your service. Now, you could be on that job for that particular day because of a leave. You might be working from home, or you were supposed to be in office on that day, and because it was something like that, you went off and you're still considered. So that's company's policy. As long as the company is providing you experience letter for that particular date or dates, that's fine. People have different kind of leaves from their employees, so that shouldn't be an issue. Poonam Sethi, an international student who is finishing diploma of 2 years in computer programming in Ottawa in December 2020 should move to which province for PR? Poonam, that's a difficult question like this, because there's a lot of stuff that has to be reviewed. So such case specific advising we only do with clients where we have all the details. But generally, see, because I don't know if what kind of experience you have before this. See, these calculations are supposed to be done on the basis of your age, your IELTS, your prior work experience, any work experience that you have in Canada, and your overall qualification. So it is very hard to sort of just suggest something based on this piece of information. But finishing diploma of 2. Now, I don't know if you have any qualification before the diploma of 2 years. But if you have the diploma and then you have 2 years of postgraduate work permit, if you only have the diploma and you do not have a bachelor's and then a diploma, I would highly encourage probably moving into computer programming. There is good potential here in Ontario as well. But you could look at the possibility of Alberta. You could look at the possibility of British Columbia as well. But very honestly, with just this piece of information, I can't really specifically suggest anything. That will not be proper ethical advising. Okay, Nadir Maksi. I'm a lecturer and doing PhD, and my wife is a MBBS doctor doing her FCPS. Guide on our chances. Again, Nadir, there are a lot of factors that have to be considered. It's not just these things. It's the age of the applicant, the length of work experience, how much experience, because you are allocated points for each of these factors. Like, what's your age? If you are 30 years or less, or if you're less than 30, FSWP is a good possibility. But then you have to have 3 years of full-time work experience to gain maximum points. Also, your IELTS ability. One thing that I would say, that if your wife is an MBBS doctor, the only possibility that she has is under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, none of the PNPs. You are a lecturer doing a PhD, then there are possibilities. You could look for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, and then you could also look for Saskatchewan. There is a code that I'm missing. It is 4011 or 4021, which is university lectures. This has been invited quite a few times, although in last few months this particular knock has not been invited in the Saskatchewan. Previously it was. Just keep in mind that if you're looking at Saskatchewan, realistic possibility is only if you are less than 35 years of age, and you must have about 9 years of work experience. So the actual thing will depend on a lot of these factors. Cyber attack. Thank you, brother. You're welcome. Cyber attack. Nadir Maksi again. Should a medical expert MBBS be a principal applicant or an educationist, and should we prefer an? I've already answered that, Nadir. It's not that the medical professional should be it's who scores the more point. So that will depend like that. For MBBS, there's no PNP. For university lecturer, I mentioned that Saskatchewan is a possibility, but they did invite your knock for a while. They've not invited university lecturers for last few months. They might invite it again because it is part of the eligible professions that they have. Poonam has a follow-up question. Very difficult to get job in computer programming field. My son applied for around 300 jobs for co-op job while doing a computer programming diploma. Not even one interview call. We are disappointed very badly. It's competitive. It is competitive programming, but I wouldn't say that it also sort of depends on what experience somebody has. If I see that you've already mentioned some more comments, no experience, no qualifications, only 12, no experience, only 2 years diploma in computer programming from Ottawa, IELTS, and attempted recently, age 20 years. Poonam, this is not a very um, I must say, a strong profile. Once your kid gets the postgraduate work permit, I would highly recommend, once he has the PGWP, moving into a smaller province. It will be difficult with this profile. It will be difficult under the federal programs, um, um, because the qualification, he will not be able to get a lot of points for education. Experience, he wouldn't have a lot of points in that as well. So he has to probably look at some PNP option. Um, One thing I can suggest is maybe looking for some of the towns and regions which are part of the RNIP, the Rural and Northern Immigrant Pilot Program. There are various, because in those particular smaller towns, there might be an opportunity that if he has a job, then he gets nominated for that. BC is an option as well, although keep in mind in BC there's a large number of students who are there, but they have the BC Tech PNP program, where if you have a job offer and you're working in that field, you could apply under the BC PNP. I would also recommend looking at the option of Alberta, because right now, pretty much they don't invite people from outside of the province. But once he has the PGWP, probably moving to the province of Alberta and looking for a job over there would help, because if he has 2 years diploma, then that means he will be getting 2 years postgraduate work permit. So my suggestion would be moving out of the big provinces, like if he's in Ottawa, so he's in Ontario. Moving out of Ontario, probably looking at smaller provinces and looking for a provincial nomination program or a regional pilot program. Fair enough. So Gurpreet has asked that because you were laid off, would you need? Now, Gurpreet, you will be meeting the 12 months CEC requirement in a while from now. So right now we have some policies, COVID-related policies, where there is some sort of coverage. But yes, you will have to work for probably one extra month to cover that up. Yeah. So Kwinder, hello Shariq, my CRS is 470. Can we expect ITA before December? So Kwinder, 470 is a good competitive score. I would be really hopeful and positive about 470 receiving an ITA this particular year. So good luck on that. Ali Imran, I am FSC in bio and wants to get admission in 2-year diploma in nursing. Please guide me. Ali, I don't do admission processing. Very frankly, nursing programs are in length. You can there's quite a lot of colleges here in Canada. You'll have to do IELTS. Keep in mind, if you want to do nursing, you are required to have a higher IELTS. Nursing admissions require higher IELTS. Depending what grades you have in your FSC, you can submit your application for admission. Unfortunately, I don't do admissions as such. I'm focused on immigration piece. Rattlesnake has a very good question: how to deal with cash-based jobs. Now, if you're working and your compensation is cash-based, it doesn't mean that you're disqualified, at least for the federal programs. Some PNP programs might not accept that, like Saskatchewan. They want clear documentation. If you genuinely worked for an organization and you've been paid even on cash, it doesn't matter. If you have supporting documentation to show that you were being paid, like there was a deposit by yourself in the banks, or you did your taxation documents, that's fine. Otherwise, if your employer can confirm that you were being paid in cash, that's fine as well. So it's not that if you were being paid cash, you cannot use that experience. Now, if the question is for people working in Canada and you're doing a cash job, which is a different terminology, because cash job in Canada means that you were working, but you were not working within the time that you're allowed to work, or you were working without being taxed. Now that's a problem. If this cash job was from within Canada, then technically you cannot claim points for this because this is not documented. Poonam, should he meet you? Poonam, if he would want to, definitely he can book a consultation. All consultations, individual one-on-one consultations, are charged. It's 100 Canadian dollars for a 30-minute session. It's virtual consultation these days. So my email address is there on the screen now. If he would want to have case-specific advising, he can send me an email. My staff will schedule an appointment session, and we can do an appointment session. But as I mentioned, all case-specific individual advising sessions are paid. It is 100 Canadian dollars for a 30-minute session. Fair enough. Rafia, hi, kindly guide about immigration for a pharmacist from Pakistan with spouses. Which program is preferable? I think you meant spouse. So for pharmacist, if you're from Pakistan and if you have a bachelor's of pharmacy, it is considered as a professional degree, equivalent to a master's. So you will gain maximum points for in terms of education. For pharmacists, again, for most medical professionals, pharmacists, and the medical doctors, vets, the only option, dentist, the only option that you have at this stage are the federal skilled worker program stream. None of the PNPs have these professions. These are licensed medical professions, wherein usually it is Canadian qualified people who are who are utilized within the province. So for your case, if ideally you're less than 30 or just around 30 years of age, you have 3 years of work experience, and you have a pharmacy degree, you have a very good chance. Then you have to score well on IELTS. Keep in mind, these days, if you cannot score well on IELTS, Canadian immigration is not a possibility. The score that you require is CLB 9, which is 8 in listening and 7 in all others. And you can apply with your spouse. So basically, if you're the main applicant or whoever is the main applicant and they're married, the spouse and the kids, they are part of the same application. It is only that if you are applying along with a spouse, then it is preferable if your spouse can also sit for an IELTS and they have ECA done for their qualification as well. They're not required to have these done, but these will add some more points. So Rafia, in your case, federal skilled worker program, which is under express entry, IELTS, you need CLB 9, and then depending on your age and experience, you can proceed with this. Rattlesnake, I'm from Pakistan. Thanks for clarification. Yeah. Gurpreet, thank you so much. For example, if I'm completing my 1-year experience in Jan 2020, when should I submit my file in pool? It should be after completing, or I can do it earlier. Technically, if you don't have 12 months of experience, then you do not become eligibility. You will not meet eligibility. As soon as you hit the 12-month mark, or at times, because once you submit your profile, you put in the experience section, you put in months and years. So if it is just around 11 months and few days, you can put in your profile and it will consider as 12 months. So that can be done. But ideally, it's just a matter of a month, I would recommend hitting the 12-month mark and then proceeding. Rattlesnake, I went to Malaysia for my MBA. The program duration was Jan to December. I have documentation for this. However, I received my visa 45 days late. So do I have to put official duration of the degree? So you put the official duration of the degree, because that was the time. It doesn't really matter. You can explain this thing that I started it off, but I was granted the visa a little late. You could provide document. These can be explained. That's not an issue. Arjun, Arjun is a regular attendee, and now I know that Arjun, you're based in Oman as well. Hi Shariq, my best wishes to you and your family. Can you please confirm if I'm required to add my name in my spouse's passport, or only a marriage certificate will suffice the purpose? No need for putting the name in that. The only thing is that you have to check, depending on your nationality, if that is a requirement over there. Because if you have to obtain police certificates, sometimes from your country of origin, at times you might be required to have this documentation done, where the record in spouse passport should be matching what it is as per your marital status. But in terms of IRCC, that's not a requirement. Nobody is like, if somebody wants to keep the same name, that's fine enough, as long as you have marriage certificates which prove you being married. That's perfectly fine. So that's not a requirement from IRCC's perspective. Fair enough. So that's all the questions that that are there today. No, there are a couple more. Rattlesnake, 2 questions more. Poonam sir, Alberta deadline is Jan 2021, right? Poonam, I'm not sure what deadline are you talking about. There's no Alberta deadline as such. So if you could explain that. Arjun, I will be obtaining PCC from Oman itself, but I'm confused whether I should get the name added so that my application doesn't get delayed. If you still have time, Arjun, like if you haven't received ITA and you have time, always better that you have your documentation completed. So always better that if you can have that added, and if it doesn't really take a lot of time. But if that's not, if like you're time bound, then this will not be an issue in itself. As long as you have marriage certificates which prove your marriage, that's fine enough. You could explain that in a letter of explanation, that we just didn't want to change it for some reason, or the time was short. But if you have time and you can have it updated, great. But this will not be a reason for rejection as such. Rattlesnake, do I need to put my old passport in document section? It depends. If you have travel history, this is a very specific question. So I don't answer specific questions like this over here, because that's until unless I have all the documents in front of me, I can't advise on that. If you have travel history on that passport, then yes, you need to provide details of that. Otherwise, you can skip. Arjun, no, I haven't. My CRS score is 469, and I'm expecting to receive ITA soon. Then Arjun, you can proceed with having the update done in your spouse passport. Shivam, I will be obtaining PCC from Australia, so will matter if the address mentioned on it is of a friend who lives there right now. I'm in India right now. If so technically the address, if you're not living over there, then how come? Because when you ask for a PCC, and in your profile you provide dates when you were living at various addresses. Now, if the address on PCC is showing an address in Australia, whereas you are in India, that can be an issue. But if it is only for the purpose of like being posted, then that's fine. Although I know I've myself lived in Australia, and I've had my PCCs for various purposes. I know that your PCC can be delivered to your country of residence. So I don't know why would you have your friend's address on that. I wouldn't recommend that. That can be an issue. Poonam, Alberta pilot. Poonam, there's no Alberta pilot program. I think you're talking of the Alberta opportunity stream, wherein somebody has to be in Alberta. That's not technically ending in December 2020. The current policies are up until December 2020, so we don't know if that will be ending. So no, don't really worry about that. If you're talking about Alberta opportunity stream, there isn't Alberta pilot program. There is Atlantic pilot program. Rattlesnake, BBA, college, school, etc. We need to put exact duration for degrees. For example, I don't remember when I finished. It can be general dates, the general start and end dates. That's fine. You look at your documents. Your documents will have dates when those documents were signed. So if you can use those dates as well. Probably I'll finish on this comment from Arjun. Thanks, Shariq. You were really helpful as always. Yeah, this session is about helping people have generic information and guidance. We are close to 46-minute mark, and I think I don't have any more questions. So I'll ask for leave for today, and maybe get 15 minutes extra on a day off for myself. So thank you all for attending the session. Greatly appreciate your comments, your feedback. Would also request for those who are watching on YouTube, if you're not a subscriber, do subscribe. That sort of helps me. Do provide your feedback on various videos that I've posted over there. For those who are watching through this live session through Facebook, do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go on YouTube and just type in Shariq Immigration. That will support me. That is the least that I can ask from all of you. So do subscribe, do like, do provide your feedback. If there are specific topics that you would want me to make videos on, because I do make videos and upload them on the YouTube as well as Facebook, do provide that in the comment section, and I'll if there is enough demand, I'll try and get those videos made. For those who would want to use services, the email address is there on the screen. These all individual consultations are definitely paid, because as an RCIC, this is my bread and butter, this is my profession. So you can send an email. The best mode of communication, a lot of people ask, is through email. Send an email on info@shariqimmigration.com. My staff will get back to you, and we can schedule an appointment, or if you want to have your case represented through our firm. So that's about it. I see a question, and probably I'll quickly, that's Rafia, who says, do pharmacists need a license from Canadian Pharmacy Council to work over there? I think they conduct some specific training and test to get a license. Rafia, this is more of an HR-based question, but for immigration purpose, you're not required to have that license. Just on the basis of your degree, you can qualify for immigration. But yes, to practice as a pharmacist, and then there are certain categories, like if you're just doing a few retail or sales-based jobs, then there isn't a requirement. But then to practice as a pharmacist, yes, you have to register yourself with the provincial, with the relevant province pharmacy body, and only then you can practice. Fair enough. That was the last one. Thanks once again. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. For many of you, it might already be evening. Spend quality time with your family. Till the next time that we'll meet, take care. Bye-bye.